Hi everyone, welcome back to this short tutorial from Pathology Made Simple at ILovePathology.com. Looking at these four images, I'm sure you have now understood the topic which I'm going to tell, right? Yes, this is the topic on metastasis. By the end of this session, you should be able to answer these questions. How do you define metastasis and what are the different routes of spread of metastasis? So metastasis is basically spread of a primary tumor to physically discontinuous sites. Now, what do we understand by the term physically discontinuous sites? That means, for example, if there is a malignancy in the breast, if the tumor has spread to the liver or the spleen, right? Those liver and spleen are basically the discontinuous site from that of the breast, right? So that is called as metastasis, which unequivocally marks a tumor as malignant, right? Because we know that benign tumors do not metastasize, right? So all malignant tumors can metastasize, but some malignant tumors do very infrequently. For example, gliomas in the central nervous system and the basal cell carcinomas. Okay, they infrequently metastasize. Basically, they are locally aggressive tumors. Now, before we continue the session, the topic on metastasis, let us try to understand the differences between the liquid tumors and the solid tumors. Now, what are liquid tumors? These are the tumors which arise from the cells that normally circulate in the bloodstream, right? Like, for example, the RBCs, the WBCs, and so on. And these have the capacity, I mean, the tumors have the capacity to enter bloodstream and can travel to distant sites, which by and large, at the time of diagnosis itself, these tumors are disseminated, and that's why they are all malignant. All liquid tumors are malignant. For example, the leukemias, the lymphomas are categorized as liquid tumors, right? Whereas the solid tumors are the ones which are derived from cells which normally do not circulate in the bloodstream. Remember, 30% of all solid tumors they present as metastatic disease, right? And of course, these tumors do correlate with other features of malignancy, like they will have a lot of pleomorphism, abnormal mitosis, increased nucleocytoplasmic ratio, and so on. And there are some exceptions. For example, so there are malignant tumors which are very slow growing, but they metastasize widely. For example, follicular carcinomas of thyroid. They are slow growing tumors, yet they metastasize to wide, I mean, to different places in the body, to different organs in the body, particularly the skull. And you have renal cell carcinomas that is also a slow growing lesion, yet it metastasizes widely. Similarly, on the contrary, there are some tumors which are rapidly growing, but they are still localized when they are detected at first. These are, for example, glioblastoma, the primary central nervous system lymphomas, and anaplastic thyroid carcinomas. They are aggressive tumors, yet they remain localized during the time of diagnosis, the first diagnosis. And that goes on to say that the growth rate alone does not predict the biologic behavior. Right? Some are slow growing, some are rapidly growing. Yet the metastatic potentials in these tumors are different. You know why? That's because the tumors don't read textbooks. Right? That's on a funny note. Well, why do you need to know about metastasis? Why it is so important? That's because we know that it is a complex and highly unpredictable process, and the metastasis depends upon the interaction between the tumor and the host. Okay, that's very important. The tumor forms the seed here, and the host forms the fertile soil. And we know that metastasis is the single most important feature that limits the possibility of cure. When I say that once you have a metastatic deposits, once the patient has come with metastatic deposits in various organs, that means the probability of the patient being cured becomes lesser and lesser, right? And by the time many cancers are diagnosed, you should know that metastatic spread may have already occurred, right? And that is the reason why prevention of metastasis or even blocking of metastasis remains one of the greatest goals of cancer therapy. So we need to prevent metastasis. We need to block the metastasis if it has started, and that will kind of give hope to the patient. Now we will talk about the various pathways of spread of metastasis. There are three important pathways. One is the lymphatic spread, second one is the hematogenous spread, and the third one is direct seeding of the body cavities. The lymphatic spread is the most common route for the spread of carcinomas. That is very important. Okay, it is the most common route of spread for carcinomas because it follows basically lymphatic spread means it follows the natural lymphatic drainage of that particular organ. Right? The tumor cells enters the lymphatics. How do they enter? They enter at the tumor margin and not within the tumor. In the periphery of the tumor, there will be a lot of lymphatics, and through those lymphatics, the tumor cells pass to the regional lymph nodes. Right? Usually, the regional lymph nodes are the ones which are usually involved. Having said that, sometimes the nearest lymph node might not be affected. Some other lymph node might be involved. And that is called as skip metastasis. Okay, that's one aspect. Another important point you need to know is that there is something called sentinel lymph node. So, what is this sentinel lymph node? This is the first draining lymph node from the primary tumor. Okay, please note that sentinel lymph node need not be the closest lymph node. Okay, by definition, this is the first draining lymph node from the primary tumor. Why it is important? The biopsy of the sentinel node is the one which helps in staging the prognosis and even to plan the treatment of that particular malignancy. And the second important point you need to remember is that just because you have lymph nodes enlarged, that doesn't mean that there is metastasis because many a times the enlarged lymph nodes will still be a reactive process. They just represent reactive follicular or reactive hyperplasia, which is most often sinus histiocytosis pattern. Now, the second important pathway of spread is hematogenous spread. As I told you, the lymphatic spread is for carcinomas, whereas hematogenous spread, typically, it is the route of spread for sarcomas. Yes, sometimes it can occur in carcinomas as well. The metastatic potential, in the sense the tumor cells usually invade veins rather than arteries, and liver and lungs, they are the most common sites of hematogenous metastasis. And the pattern of spread depends upon the venous drainage and, of course, the tumor biology. Let me give you some examples. See, the prostate carcinomas. Think about the prostate carcinoma. They spread into the vertebral column via the paravertebral venous plexus. And renal cell carcinoma, some tumors, they can even directly enter into the veins. For example, this is the renal cell carcinoma. Look at this, that's a renal vein. Directly, the tumor spreads or extends into the renal vein, and from the renal vein, it goes into the inferior vena cava and it also enters the right atrium. Okay, that can be the aggressive way of metastasis of particularly renal cell carcinomas. Similarly, hepatocellular carcinomas can go through these portal or hepatic veins. The third and the most important one is the direct seeding of body cavities, because we know the tumor can spread across natural body cavities and serosal surfaces. The reason why it occurs is that the tumor, they can shed the cells into these open spaces, into these body cavities. And the commonly involved body spaces are the peritoneal cavity, the pleural cavity, pericardial cavity. There are many cavities, right? Meningeal joint spaces, but the most common one which is involved is the peritoneal cavity, which is classically seen in the tumors of ovary, malignant tumors of ovary. And you can find extensive peritoneal deposits. Okay, this is the case of peritoneal carcinomatosis. This is the case of peritoneal carcinomatosis. You can see multiple nodules of tumor on the mesentery or in the peritoneum. Similarly, you can have something called pseudomyxoma peritonei. What is that? That's basically the entire peritoneal cavity it is filled with the gelatinous material. It is filled with mucin. So this is all the mucin which is found on the peritoneal cavity. That's because of the direct seeding of the tumor from either the appendiceal mucinous tumor or the ovarian mucinous tumors. And this is called as pseudomyxoma peritonei. So those are the three important pathways of spread: the lymphatic, the hematogenous, and direct seeding of body cavities. Now let us look into some of the exceptions. We have told that carcinomas are the ones which are spread, sarcomas are spread by hematogenous route, right? Yes, there are sarcomas which can spread by lymphatics as well. These are exceptions. And what are those sarcomas? They are synovial sarcoma, rhabdomyosarcoma, epithelioid sarcoma, clear cell sarcoma, and rarely angiosarcoma. If you remember one or two of these, that's good enough. These are the sarcomas which can spread by lymphatic route. Similarly, carcinomas normally lymphatic, but they can spread hematogenously as well. Like, for example, I talked about the renal cell carcinoma, hepatocellular carcinoma, right? Similarly, the follicular thyroid carcinoma and choriocarcinoma of the testes or the ovary, they can spread hematogenously as well. So these are some of the exceptions you need to know when we talk about metastasis. Now, what are the take home messages from this session? One, it is the event which unequivocally indicates malignancy. Okay, although we know that there are some tumors which can rarely metastasize, and we need to know, we should have the knowledge of roots and patterns of metastasis, and that's because it is essential for staging of cancers, to prognostic, because of to understand the prognosis of the malignancies, and even to plan the treatment. And do not forget that every tumor has its own metastatic behavior, and that's why we need to know the common roots, but always remember the exceptions. Right? So, with this, I complete the topic on metastasis. I have just given you a brief overview of metastasis. The underlying molecular basis, underlying mechanisms of metastasis, I will cover in my subsequent sessions. Till then, take care. Thank you for watching. If you have liked this video, click on the like button. Do comment if you have anything to ask, and do not forget to subscribe, and please do share. Thank you.